Imagine stepping through the gilded gates of Versailles, the grandest palace in Europe, where chandeliers drip crystal light onto gowns worth a fortune. But if you dare breathe too deep, the dream turned into a nightmare, a rancid stench, strong enough to choke a bouquet of roses from 20 paces away. In the 17th century, royalty was elegance on the outside, but rot on the inside. Beneath silks and diamonds, noble women hid grimy secrets. Unwashed bodies, lice-infested wigs, spoiled banquets, and even public births where dignity didn't stand a chance. These women looked like goddesses at lavish balls, yet lived with parasites and filth clinging to their skin. It's a side of royal life that history's fairy tales forget to mention, but once you know it, you'll never see the crowns the same way again. Stick with me as we lift the perfume veil and expose 5 of the worst hygiene horrors royal women faced, starting with what should have been the most basic human comfort, the bath. If you love unmasking dirty royal secrets, don't forget to hit subscribe and stay tuned, because the next chapter will make your skin crawl. Ready? Let's dive into bathing horror at Versailles. You'd think that in the grandest palace on earth, the queens and ladies would have the luxury of warm, fragrant baths every night. But at Versailles, the truth was far from a fairy tale. In the 17th century, bathing was feared more than filth itself. Doctors believed that warm water dangerously opened your pores, letting in diseases that lurked in the damp palace air. And the church? It condemned bathhouses as dens of temptation and vanity. So, for noble women, staying clean often meant staying dry. A royal woman's bath ritual, if you could call it that, was pitiful. Maybe once every few months, she'd be lowered into a copper tub filled with lukewarm water, but only after her husband, sons, and favored courtiers had gone first. By the time her turn came, the water was murky with dirt, oil, and whatever else clung to the skin of those before her. No wonder many chose to skip it altogether. Instead, she might dab her face and hands with a cloth soaked in wine, vinegar, or even her own saliva. Skin scrubbed raw, that was the height of cleanliness. Layers of perfume, powder, and lace hid the stench, but guests still gagged when they came too close. One English visitor described Versailles as a palace of beauty from afar, but a sewer of stench within. Underneath the silk gowns lay skin that hadn't touched soap in months. The irony. The higher your rank, the worse you often smelled, because more layers meant more sweat trapped inside. If you think that was bad, wait until you hear how they handled nature's other call, because next, we step into the filthiest truth of royal luxury, the toilet, or rather, the shocking lack of it. Stay with me. If you ever stroll through the gilded corridors of Versailles, try to imagine this. Beneath the polished marble floors and velvet drapes lurked one of the palace's dirtiest secrets. They barely had any toilets. The most powerful people in Europe waltzed through endless balls and banquets. Yet, when nature called, the options were grim. Versailles had hundreds of rooms, but almost no functioning bathrooms. Instead, noble ladies and gentlemen used chamber pots, little porcelain bowls tucked under beds, hidden behind embroidered curtains, or discreetly placed in closets. When the pot was full, well, Out the window it went. Unfortunately, if you were an unlucky soul strolling the garden paths below, you might receive a royal gift from above. And it wasn't just the pots. Some courtiers didn't even bother. Men were notorious for relieving themselves behind pillars or straight off balconies. Visitors from other countries often wrote horrified letters home about the stench that clung to the palace walls like a ghost. It got so bad that by 1715, a royal decree ordered the corridors to be cleaned, but only once a week. That was Versailles' idea of progress. Worse yet, toilet paper as we know it didn't exist. Nobles used scraps of cloth, handfuls of straw, or even leaves, and washing up after, a luxury few bothered with. Small wonder that parasites and infections spread like wildfire behind those grand golden doors. Imagine sweeping through the palace halls in an extravagant gown, carefully lifting your skirts, not just to show off your embroidery, but to dodge puddles that definitely weren't spilled wine. Disgusted? Good. Because if you think the toilets were a nightmare, just wait until you discover what was hidden in their towering, glamorous hairdos. You're about to scratch your head. Literally. Ready for wig and lice paradise. Royal ballroom glittering with diamonds, chandeliers flickering in candlelight, and towering hairdos that almost scraped the ceilings. In the 17th century, a noblewoman's wig wasn't just fashion. It was her crown, her status symbol, and quite literally, her lice hotel. These extravagant wigs were engineering marvels. They stood feet tall, padded with horsehair, stuffed with wool, and shaped with wire frames. But the real secret ingredient? Pomade, a sticky paste made from animal fat, mostly beef tallow. It helped mold those architectural curls, but also turned each wig into a warm, greasy paradise for lice colonies. Women didn't dare wash their hair underneath. They might not even take their wigs off for days, even weeks. The result? Entire ecosystems thriving above their powdered faces. And they weren't subtle about it either. Ladies carried delicate, long-handled lice combs, some carved from ivory or silver, which they used to scratch at their itchy scalps during dinner parties. Picture a duchess nibbling sugared fruit with one hand, while the other elegantly digs through her wig jungle to hunt parasites. Some gossip of the time claimed that the lice grew so big they were practically landlords of noble hair. It sounds absurd, but the stories weren't far from reality. Court life was so obsessed with appearance that women endured endless itching rather than risk losing their fashionable height, and danger lurked beyond lice. These wigs were so big, some caught fire when ladies leaned too close to candles. Others caused chronic neck pain from the sheer weight. Yet no one dare skip the wig parade. In court, your hair was power, even if it crawled with secrets. Think that's bad? Wait until you hear what crawled into the royal kitchens. Hold your stomach, because royal banquet disaster will make you rethink that fancy feast. The wigs were stomach-churning. Just wait until you peek inside the royal kitchens. The banquets at Versailles were legendary. Tables groaning under golden platters stacked with roasted pheasants, glazed pies, candied fruits, and rivers of sweet wine. It looked like the ultimate luxury feast. But lurking beneath all that gilded splendor was a gut-wrenching truth. The royal buffet was a breeding ground for every pest imaginable. Versailles' plumbing was so poor that raw sewage sometimes leaked straight into the kitchens. Imagine master chefs dodging puddles of waste while trying to carve a swan. Meat spoiled quickly in the heat. Fruits and bread sat out for days. And scurrying among the silver and crystal were armies of rats, mice, and buzzing clouds of flies, sampling the king's delicacies before he ever laid eyes on them. And they weren't the only uninvited guests. Parasites found a direct route onto royal plates. Undercooked meats teemed with tapeworms and other nasties that made their new home inside unsuspecting nobles. It's no wonder courtiers suffered constant stomach cramps, diarrhea, or worse. Even King Louis XIV, the mighty Sun King, once reportedly passed a 6-inch-long tapeworm, proof that not even a crown could protect you from a free meal of parasites. In a twisted way, you could say Versailles offered the original buffet experience. Today, you might splurge on a 5-star brunch. Back then, you got a buffet of worms with your roast. And for royal women, it was even crueler. They were expected to dine gracefully, toasting and flirting through the nausea, while pretending the rats didn't squeak beneath their feet. Ready for the final horror? Next, we pull back the velvet curtains on the most intimate ordeal of all, childbirth. And trust me, public childbirth trauma will make your skin crawl. Now, brace yourself for the most gut-wrenching scene yet. Childbirth at Versailles. Forget cozy delivery rooms or hushed privacy. Royal births were a public spectacle. For queens and noblewomen, giving birth meant stepping onto a stage with dozens of prying eyes. Giving birth was like doing a show, as they might say. Whenever a queen went into labor, the royal bedchamber transformed into a crowded theater. Courtiers, priests, doctors, nosy nobles, all crammed inside, jostling for a glimpse to verify that no trickery took place. After all, everyone feared the old rumor that a stillborn child or a girl could be secretly swapped for a healthy male heir. So, mothers were forced to endure their most vulnerable moments under a suffocating wave of whispers and gossip. The conditions? Nothing like the spotless hospitals we know today. The bed often lacked fresh sheets. Medical tools were rarely clean. Doctors went from dissecting animals straight to delivering baby, with barely a rinse of their hands. Infections spread like wildfire, and without antibiotics. It was a miracle if mother and baby both survived. 1 in 3 children died before the age of 3, and mothers often didn't live to see their child's next birthday. Marie Antoinette herself famously fainted during childbirth, not just from pain, but from the heat and stench of so many people crammed into her chamber, all gawking as if watching a royal drama unfold live. Imagine the fear, the humiliation, the agony, with no curtain to draw for modesty. A single birth scene, 50 pairs of eyes, and not a single clean sheet to be found. This was the final, filthy reality of royal glory. So next time you hear that royals had it easy, remember Versailles. And if you think that's the worst of it, stick around because the dirty secrets never end. There you have it. Behind the golden mirrors and silk gowns of Versailles was a kingdom where the stench of power was quite literal. From filthy bath rituals to lice-infested wigs, rat-filled banquets, and childbirths turned into public theater, these royal women carried their crowns alongside parasites, rumors, and raw fear. They looked flawless on portraits, but up close, their world was crawling, rotting, and reeking in ways history politely skips over. If you ever thought wealth means comfort, think again. At Versailles, the more diamonds you wore, the more you stank. If you crave more filthy secrets from the royal corridors, don't just watch. Join the court. Hit subscribe. Drop me a comment with your favorite hygiene horror, and share this tale with your bravest friends. Because here at Dirty Royal Secrets, we dig up the stories so rotten, they'll make you grateful for your shower. See you in the next scandal.